This is the OMG Book Show with William O'Day, episode number 12.
Welcome to the OMG Book Show, where it's all about taking you into the brains of fantastic authors. No scalpels required. It's more than an interview, it's an experience. And now, your host, William O'Day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm going to apologize up front today because I don't have a little sweet message from one of my daughters like I have, I think, for the past 2 episodes, I believe. A Merry Christmas one, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, something like that. Anyway, the angelic voices that you may have heard in the last 2 episodes are not here other than mine. I'm still here. It's not quite so angelic, though. Anyway, today we are going to be speaking with Shawn Chesser, the best-selling author of the Surviving the Zombie Apocalypse series, which he's got about 12 books into, I think, at this point. And he has also just started a new series with a new book called The Promise, Riker's Apocalypse Book 1. And we'll hear more about that in the interview today. So some of the things we talk about today are we find out how he wrote his first book, Trudge, maybe at least the first draft. I'm not sure how far he went into it, but the kind of insanely amazing way that modern technology allowed him to write that first book. It still blows my mind. We also find out about how in one of his previous jobs, he was washing dishes so awesomely that some of the people around him thought he was playing rock music. I mean, really? Come on, that's amazing. Shawn, you're the best dishwasher ever. Please come to my house. I'm going to throw a party. I don't think he does that anymore because he's all about the writing these days. But anyway, one can dream. We also share kind of our some stories about our youth. We have some things in common. We both loved some of the Shannara series, and I break down and admit what happened to me when I finished reading the Elf Stones of Shannara as a young teenage boy, as an impressionable young youth. I guess when you say young youth, that's redundant, but you get my meaning. Anyway, and we also kind of commiserate on what happened after we each saw Jaws back in the day. I mean, I really do think that movie emotionally scarred a generation. Anyway, so we get into some of that. We also talk about the book that he has coming up that I just briefly mentioned before. We get at more details on that. And last but not least, and there's actually a lot more, so even more than that, but we also throw down, there we go, better, a performance from a movie that really had, not Jaws, but a different one, had a big impact on his life and perhaps even partly is responsible for pushing him into writing the stories that he does today. So you may have listened in past episodes where we've done a few of these performances. I'm assuming they came off beautifully because that's how I felt about it. I'm assuming you think that they came off beautifully because that's how I felt about it. But we're going to do another one of those today, and it's going to be probably the best one yet. That's how I'm going to phrase it anyway, frame it for you. Anyway, enough babbling from me. We've got a great interview today, so what are we waiting for? Surgical gloves on, scalpel in hand. Let's get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's show. We have the distinct pleasure of chatting with Shawn Chesser, who I just found out got a new puppy. Awesome. And thank you for joining us today, Shawn.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for asking me.
Right on. So he just mentioned that he had just got a plot hound, which I think I discovered maybe the dog that I have as well, and they're amazing. So if people out there listening, if you haven't heard of a plot hound, like I never had, go check it out because they're amazing dogs.
I concur.
Right on. Well, Shawn, I wanted to bring you on the show because there are few names known in the post-apocalyptic genre as well as yours. You are kind of a kingpin of zombie fiction. Is that fair to say?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say kingpin. I love it. I love the genre, and that's what I write in right now. I dabble in other stuff, but yeah, I mean, when I started writing this genre, there wasn't a lot of stuff to read. I mean, there was the usual suspects who are great, but I just was writing for myself basically. So living vicariously through my imagination, my characters.
Awesome. Yeah. And I've heard, and I read a few interviews on you just to get a feel for kind of your background and stuff beforehand. And it's fascinating to me that Trudge, I believe, is the first book in the zombie apocalypse series. you wrote that in Notepad on your iPhone. Is that, I mean,
most of it, the majority of it rains here a lot in Portland, Oregon, where I live. And my boy was young, and his name's Cade. His middle name's Gray, and he's my son. So hence Cade Grayson, my protagonist.
There it is.
So anyways, we were doing a lot of indoor gym here near us where they could run around and play inside. And I would just sit in the bleachers and keep one eye on him and tap away a scene on the Notepad, email it to myself, cut and paste into a Word document, which I found later is not the way to do it, because Meat Grinder, Smashword's proprietary deal, that does not like that. So I had to nuke it, and a lot of work. So I don't recommend that. But That's how I wrote Trudge, mostly. For myself, for a therapeutic exercise, sort of.
Right. And were there ever moments in the bleachers, in the stands there, where you got so excited about a little passage that you wrote, like that you were like, yes, but then on the field, the other team scored or something?
I never really outed myself like that, but I'm an aviation geek, and there are a lot of the scenes in there with helicopters and stuff that I'm just like, man, I'm flying. I want to be the pilot, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's one of the fun things about writing, is that wish fulfillment aspect. Is that a part of the reason that you write?
Oh yeah, my writing, my success in writing is starting to pay forward with things I wasn't able to do before. We were just in Hawaii not too long ago, and I got to ride around the North Shore and all over Pearl Harbor in a Hughes 500, which is basically a little bird like you see in Black Hawk Down or something, with the doors off. It was bucket list experience, man. 90 minutes of bliss.
Wow, that is so cool. And are you in the back seat with the headphones on? Kind of.
Yes, I was sitting right behind the pilot, and he was awesome. He was taking us all over the place, low and high and fast, and I had a grin wide ear to ear, man.
Did they do any of the fun things to try to get the thrill from you, like spin the copter up or tilt it up on the side so you're essentially somewhat looking straight down?
We flew over Pearl real slow, landed at the airport there because we had to wait for clearance to get across to go to the beaches and over to Diamond Head. And when he took off, we waited there for a little while. When he took off, the skids were right at the tarmac. It was flashing by to the left of me, and I was grinning. And then he banked pretty hard right and flew along, the beach and the town there, the skyscrapers and whatnot. It was an experience. And seeing a waterfall that you can't hike into anymore was pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Hawaii is such a beautiful place, and to get that aerial view, I'm sure it's amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right on. Well, so you started off back in the day writing Trudge on your iPhone, and then, as you say, you kind of got into the self-publishing thing. And at what point did it start to become apparent that this could be more than just a personal exercise in fulfillment?
Well, I got a couple of critics at first, and someone told me, well, if you've got critics and people are reading your stuff and you're hitting some kind of bone there. And I did actually get, I joined social media kicking and screaming in, I think, 2010 to support my work, because people told me you have to be on it. And having people, hit me back saying, I'm pretty happy how you portray veterans. And a lot of people were saying, are you a veteran? And I'm not a veteran. I never served. But I hold them in utmost respect, on a pedestal almost, and first responders. But just hearing that feedback, I was like, wow, I'm actually, people are reading my books. It's crazy. I didn't expect it. I wrote the book for myself, for my boy when he got older, and then for my mom, maybe, or relatives to say, I finally did finish something for once.
Right. I think it was Michael Stephen Fuchs mentioned in an interview a little bit ways back. He said something to the effect of, yes, I'm very thankful. He's not a veteran himself either, but also, like you and myself, has the utmost respect for them. And one of the things he said during that interview that really struck me was, oh yes, I couldn't be more thankful to veterans. Western civilization exists because of them.
Oh, no doubt. I'm an aviation geek. Like I said, we toured the Evergreen Museum. We go there almost every year. And for Father's Day, they have veterans there. And they had a couple of guys that had flown the requisite 30 missions over Germany in the bombers, heavy bombers during World War II. And I talked to those guys, and one of the guys was ribbing his buddy, saying, if it wasn't for us, we'd all be speaking German here. And that's the greatest generation. I hold them all in utmost respect.
Yeah, absolutely. Right on. One of the things I wanted to ask you about. You had mentioned when you first got Trudge out and kind of the early part of the career, you have the critics that come out. And like I said, like I think people had mentioned to you, I think it's a great thing. The hardest part, especially these days, is just discoverability at all. So if people are saying good things or even saying bad things, that's almost better than nothing.
Correct.
Do you still check out or get reviews from people on some of your latest works?
You know what? I honestly do not go to the review sites. People will send me the links to their review, or they'll, say, "Hey, you got a good one," or a bad one. But I don't, because it doesn't serve me. Head down and write is how I operate, pretty much.
Right.
Head down and write. And my editor, who I've been with since, not day one, because I could put the cart before the horse first. And about 3 books in, I decided, I better really pay someone to clean these up,
Right.
But she's the best sounding board, and I have a great team of beta readers and people that call me on my crap, and that's the way I do it. And if the finished product is something that I would read, I would buy, I would enjoy seeing on the screen, I'll put it out there. And if it's something I've been doing, say a little idiosyncrasy I've been doing for 12 books that people are complaining about in every review and every book or whatever, I don't know. As an example, I'm not going to change it just to change it.
Right.
It's working. So it's not broken. So don't fix it, is my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I read somewhere that you do not read other zombie fiction, as a rule. Is that right?
I did a favor. Well, not a favor. Now at the altar, Joe McKinney, who writes a heck of a series, and he's a Bram Stoker winner. He had me read an arc of his one of his books, and I was on a cruise in Alaska, so I wasn't writing at the time. I was in between books, so I read that book. I'm just afraid that somehow I'm gonna, accidentally lift something from somebody. I read one book where the author uses the term Bernie's for. The dog got my paper.
Oh no!
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Are you there?
Puppy's got a new toy.
Yeah, she grabs my notes from my current book. I'm just about to. So anyways, where was I at? I was talking about Bernie's. Oh, this author wrote, Bernie's was how she called, I think it was a female author. She called her zombies Bernie's. And I was like, man, I love that. Looking at Bernie's. But I can't use that. So if I wouldn't have known about it, I probably would have used it and heard about it later. But I just don't go into the books. I love them, but I can't.
Yeah. There is that concern of that subconscious sort of mimicry or whatever.
Exactly.
If I remember right, Trudge came out around 2010. Is that right?
Yeah, I've written about 2 books a year. So book 13 will be the next one I'm working on. I just finished a new book in a series, so that this will be, 13 books in. So about 2 a year.
Yeah, that's amazing. And is 2 a year? Does that seem to be your consistent pace at this point in the career?
That's about where I'm going to keep it. I don't, I feel like I'm ripping off the readers if I don't put out 100,000 words or more. It's just because I like books that length. 50 and 60,000 words books I could churn those out, but I'm not sure if I could, tell my story in that few words. I'm not knocking anyone that does. More power to you. But yeah, that's just how I do it.
Yeah. Every author, every writer approaches it differently, of course.
And I respect that totally.
Right on. Well, you're so 7 years now into a successful career as a writer. What would you say is what's the best thing about this job?
The autonomy, the time to spend with family. I early on, I've been in recovery since 2006, so I stole a lot of time from my family when I was doing that stuff. My daughter was 2 when I got sober, so I'm just trying to pay it back, trying to do it on my family, and just that's what I like about writing is I can carve out a couple hours here and there and do that, and then I can take my kids to soccer practice or take them to the tutor or whatever without any kind of problems,
Yeah, that's awesome. And what kind of our daughters have a tutor as well, or at least actually they have a number of tutors, but the one that I just had an emergency mission delivery for was the cello. My daughter. I
saw that. Yeah,
I know. It's
how old's your daughter?
The older one that does cello right now is 9, and I don't know. Tell me if this is how your kids are. I put the cello by the door this morning. I pointed at it and I said, do I have your attention? This goes in the car. I need you to do that when we leave. And she was like solemnly swore to make sure that happened. And then we get to school and I look back and I'm like, where's your cello? Oh, I forgot it by the door.
Yeah. Cade's 11. And we live about 4 blocks from the school. I have to walk his lunch over to school. If he forgot his lunch or something, I'll notice it sitting there. But my daughter, she's petite and she's coming on 14, but 3 or 4 years ago, she started playing an instrument. And of course, my daughter, like your daughter, picked a large instrument. She picked the trombone.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
the thing's got wheels on it. I got to help her carry it to and from school. And it's pretty funny how the little ones pick the big instruments.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the cello that my daughter plays it's probably just about the same height and breadth and width as she is.
Yep. Raven would hold the trombone and it seemed like she was pulling her forward.
She was like about to tip over.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. I often wonder, like, I focus on saying, like, reminding, my children to, like, here, take care of this responsibility, because this will instill in you that idea of responsibility over time. However, it's really just aggravating to me having to remind like 100 times about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm pushing 50, so my memory, I need to be reminded on some things too. So I guess I can sympathize with my kids.
Maybe that's the full circle of life thing,
Yep.
Coming back. All right. Right on back to the writing portion of the show. So we found out the best thing about what it's like to have this being 7 years into a successful career. What is the worst thing about this job for you?
Oh man, gosh, I really can't knock anything about it. But I guess, the marketing part of it, I mean, I like doing it. I like doing it a lot. I like Facebook and all that stuff, but I just don't want people to think I'm bombing them for buy me. But as you just said earlier, with the market and how it is you gotta have visibility. So, I put some sponsored ads out once in a while, and I work with some other groups of guys and girls, writers, to promote a little bit and groups on Facebook. But, I really don't want to be seen as that. Early on, the term I used was carpet bombers, that you'd see them drop off links at every site, boom, 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 boom,
right.
And you wouldn't hear from them for a while. But other groups that I do release new releases and post info on, I give back. I go there and BS. I love to play caption games and all kinds of stuff like that. I try to be visible that way.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's definitely, there is a balance between getting the word out and then also not just annoying the crap out of people with
exactly.
Buy this link.
I mean, I understand how people have to do it when you're new. And I guess I was lucky in the fact that when I started publishing back in 2010, it wasn't as saturated, I guess. And I got lucky and I got a readership early on. And man, my readers are so loyal. I don't call them fans. They're just Facebook buds or buds. We're on a level playing field. I put my pants on one leg at a time. I got that from JL Bourne. The first time he ever said something on one of my posts somewhere, I was like fanboyed out and said, "Oh my God, JL, just, what, hey, JL."
Right.
And he says, "Dude, I put my pants on one leg at a time." And I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yes. He also has to wash his underwear just like everybody else.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you're loving the writing career.
Yeah.
But as we all know, we don't end up in the perfect career suited to us, and many people never do. But even if you are fortunate enough to, not every job before that probably was the same. What's the worst job you've ever had?
I had the same job the last job I had was for 20 plus years. So it's kind of hard to remember back before that.
Right.
But I did, one of my first jobs was washing dishes at an old folks home here in town.
Okay.
And that was kind of, think about it, the chewed up food, the stuff you got to clean up. And then on a regular basis, I was the only guy back there. On a regular basis, someone would come back and say, "Stop that rock music," or this or that. And when it was just actually pans and dishes clanking together. So that's a true story. It was the Oddfellows home here at the Union Manor.
You're at a crotchety old folks home when it's pots and pans banging and they say, "Stop that rock music."
Like,
You're like, "I'll try to make it quieter, I guess."
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. Well, I had read somewhere that you, and I think had mentioned it with hand over your mouth in a whispered voice, but you had worked for a brief period of time, I guess maybe it was a brief period of time, at a fancy dinner restaurant. Is that right?
Yeah, I spent the last, we opened in just after 9/11 in this it's in the big pink tower here in Portland, Unico building, 30th floor restaurant, really nice restaurant, white dinner jackets and whatnot, and expensive wine. So I wasn't the opener, but I helped that place right after it opened, and I left there, turned in my dinner jackets, best day of my life, to my general manager, Walt, who was a great guy. I worked with him in the teens of years. About 5 years ago, I think it was. Turned in my dinner jackets, and that was a great day. But yeah, I did. I worked at this highfalutin restaurant where you'd see celebrities and people like I don't know, big in politics and stuff like that.
Right. And because I worked at a pizza, a number of restaurants over the years, but a pizza joint one summer in my youth for a while. And yeah. And it's, every day I go home and my hands, pretty much my whole body, but starting with the hands, it smell like onions and sausage. That was like my smell for that summer and a half.
I did pizza for 2 years, yeah, and I also worked in a place that sold seafood, and then you smell like seafood for a while. It's like,
Yeah, right. It takes a while to leak out of the pores.
Yes, no doubt.
Right on. Well, at this fancy restaurant that you worked at, did they, like, if a piece of food, like a nice cut of pork tenderloin or whatever, if it fell on the ground for say less than 2 seconds, is that recoverable?
Never. Never, ever, ever.
Okay.
Not even at my house do I do that usually, especially now with a puppy.
Oh yeah, because you're not fast enough for the puppy to get it.
She's pretty quick.
Right on.
But no, I honestly never saw that in all the days of working at restaurants. That's just kind of I don't know. That's an old wives' tale, in my opinion.
Yeah, or maybe at the kind of restaurant that nobody wants to eat or work at.
Exactly.
Well, I see. I saw it seemed to kind of be like one of your kind of like a line that describes your work and your preferences for writing in the zombie genre, as you like your zombies shambling, trudging, and moaning.
Yeah,
and not fast or I guess at all intelligent. Is that right?
I'm glad I did, and I do. I'm glad you broached the subject because my new book it's called Riker's Apocalypse.
Okay,
it's set in 2016, and it's got zombies that are fast. It's got both fast and slow. And
Shawn, what are you doing? What happened?
Oh man, I wrote this scene in this last book that made me shiver. Man, this Z took someone down like Lawrence Taylor is how I described it. On a quarterback, and it's kind of fun. I just recently actually watched. My daughter's going to be 14 soon. My boy and wife were gone, and we watched 28 Days Later together. And man, that movie, I remember seeing it at the theater. Woo, the tunnel scene and some of those scenes where they're coming at you was like, oh man. But I'm delving into it because people asked for it, and I think it's a nice little change for me.
Right on. Was it watching the 28 Days Later again that helped to kind of push you in that, or were you already decided to?
We just watched it the other night, my daughter and I. I'd already, this book's done. I'm just in the final phases of editing, and I'm doing the old overused word check and stuff like that. And it's already up for pre-order now, so at all the sites. So hopefully, January 3rd, I'm going to have this uploaded here real soon, and it'll be ready to go January 3rd.
Awesome. Exciting. Well, this episode will air on January 9th, so it will be able to help get the word out right after release there.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, I'd read somewhere that you had wrote Trudge, or one of the reasons for writing Trudge was that you wanted to let your kids read it later. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. It was kind of, just well, like I said earlier, it was a therapeutic exercise trying to finish something for once. I was newly sober, I guess 12 years out, 11 and a half years out, I'm still newly sober. It's one day at a time, but I wanted to just finally finish something I put my mind to, and I did. And, I kind of wanted to show Cade that this is what Dad was doing when you were little, and my daughter Raven too, That's basically what it was.
Yeah, that's super cool.
Then I let some friends at the Portland City Grill, my buddy Ed Phillips, I let him read it. And he says, there's some inconsistencies with some of the military stuff because he's a veteran. And he said, but dang, dude, your dialogue's pretty good. And this is a good story. You should think about self-publishing. And I said, what? Self-what? I had no idea. So that's what started the whole research about self-publishing, and what got the ball rolling basically is Ed Phillips. And he still lives in town, and still chat with him now and again.
That's amazing. And did Ed Phillips request a reasonable fee going forward in your career?
No, he didn't actually. He's a great guy. I won't fail to credit him with nudging me along.
Yeah, I find in these interviews I've done thus far, I do find that there seems to be kind of these points, these touch points that people kind of refer back during their career where something really key and big happen like that. You're talking about this gentleman letting you know about self-publishing. Mark had mentioned Mark Tufo one time about he was about to quit his entire career and throw it all away, and one reader alone like kind of turned it all around and pushed him forward. Right. It's amazing like that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I still have the I'm not really a writer. I don't really feel like I'm successful. It's weird.
Oh, the imposter syndrome?
The imposter syndrome. That's what I couldn't see. I told you I'm almost 50. I was trying to drag that out of my head. Another writer one time, she posted it on Facebook, and I hit her up right away, and I instant message or private, whatever, not in a creepy way. I said, man, you just explained exactly how I feel, because I couldn't believe I'm getting any kind of accolades from something that I just do out of fun, you know?
Right. And you're saying you still at times feel that way? I
still do. Yeah. I mean, I'm writing for a national magazine called Skill Set, and I pinch myself when I see that come out at Barnes and Noble on the, on the stand, and I read my serial story in there and see my name, and it's weird. It just totally weird. Like my daughter today or yesterday, a couple of days ago, says, I told a couple of friends, because she just changed schools to a new school, that you're a writer. I go, oh, don't do that. Listen, people ask, and immediately when someone asks, what do you write? And I go, oh, horror. What kind of horror? Apocalyptic horror. What? Zombies. I write zombies.
Okay.
That's immediately a turn off for most people, but I do have a few people that have found out that are fans, and actually they're fans of the genre. And some people in Portland have read my stuff, and they find out I live in Portland. They're like, "Whoa, really? Oh, cool." So there's a good upside and a downside, but yeah, I still sometimes feel like the imposter.
Yeah, well, there's no reason to. I mean, you're at what are you, like 13, 14 books into a career at this point? Is that right?
Yeah, about to publish 13 and starting on 14 as soon as it goes live. So.
I mean, you have to believe, like, there are traditionally published authors who've had careers with less books than that,
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm anywhere up there. I'm just happy that people continue to read my book, my yarns. I heard you say that in WJ's interview. I spin yarns, and I'm glad people want to read my yarns, and that's all they are. It's just fun, good fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to ask, I forgot to, so have either of your kids read any of your books yet?
My boy Cade has been sneaking. He was diagnosed with dyslexia about 3 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So we've been going to two tutors a week for dyslexia, and he's got back up to grade level now. He's in 5th grade.
Wow. Okay.
And I caught him a couple times sneaking my books out of the office and reading them. So there's nothing really in there that I'm afraid. He actually watches The Walking Dead with me now. It's my wife's given the approval. She's a nurse, and she's like, I don't think it's going to mush his brain at 11 years. He just turned 11 yesterday, 12.
Right on.
And so we share the love, and I think I'm going to let him read them. But there's no realistic. I don't write gratuitous sex. There's some inferred stuff, or whatnot. But, the violence, he plays first-person shooters, so what the heck,
Right. Well, happy birthday, Cade. We're a day late here, but I hope it went well.
Yeah, it did. It was a good day.
All right. Cool. Yeah, I wonder, my daughters are younger, and so I wonder at what point when I allow them to read my books and how weird that will be for everybody.
Right. Yours are also really in-depth and political, technical thriller, right? Kind of thing.
Yeah, I do tend to try to pull in some conspiracy aspects.
Right.
So,
yeah, as do I. But I kind of want my kids to be a little bit less exposed to that kind of stuff until they get older and can inform their own decisions,
Yeah, it is. Every family and every parent's set of parents or single parents, they have kind of like, you try to decide like how soon can I like introduce this aspect of the world to them.
Exactly. You want to keep them as naive for as long as possible about that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, man. I totally agree on that. Let's see. So one of the things I read in one of your interviews was that I think you had said it was the first book you read was The Sword of Shannara. Is that right?
It was one of the first books in high school that I read, a fantasy genre that I really loved. Northwest author Terry Brooks. I was into that series big time, but I've never really thought about writing anything fantasy. I'd probably fall on my face and look like an idiot if I did. I played a little D&D in my day, and those games got kind of crazy.
Oh, yeah. I played a few of those way back in my teenage years.
Yep, my teenage years too.
And did my parents, I grew up in a fairly conservative, I would say, religiously strict family, and my parents were pretty much Dungeons and Dragons. That was extremely questionable, bordering on totally unacceptable.
My mom let me go decide on what I wanted as far as faith and whatnot. I was never pushed anywhere. And as long as I wasn't harming anyone or anyone's pets or anything like that, it was good to go. I was harming myself also.
Right.
So yeah, no, I really didn't have that thing hanging over me playing D&D. Right. It was just a game as far as they were concerned.
Yeah, I think for me, it was that whole forbidden fruit thing. Like it was actually even maybe twice as cool because it was possibly unacceptable.
Right. That's also the if you tell your kids something's like, no, it's taboo, they're going to be more encouraged to check it out. Yeah. So I kind of walk that fine line too. I don't try to shield them from everything.
Yeah, right on. Well, I was that sort of Shannara, that series, I recall reading it as a youth, and like you, was just completely into it. Like I think it was the second book, Elfstones of Shannara, where the main character, she's a girl, Amberle, maybe something.
Oh, yeah, there were so many different characters, but yeah, go ahead.
I forget. Do you remember the girl she was a lead character, a girl, I think an elf. Yeah, definitely an elf. And at the end of the book, she sacrifices herself to transform into this tree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was the first book I remember for sure where I, as a teenage boy, just bawled like a baby at the end.
Right. It was an emotional ending. I mean, you got pretty attached to those characters. I was a big fan of Garrett Jax, the weapons master.
He's cool.
I was all into this ninja phase, and he just spoke to me, man.
Hold on, I had a ninja phase too. Did you ever order anything about ninjas from the back of comic books?
No, I didn't have to. There was a cutlery shop down here in Portland on 9th and Alder. I can't remember the name of it. But if you went in there and you were nice enough, you could buy shuriken. You could buy anything except for the long swords. They would sell you stuff. And so the backyard, the wooden fence in my mom's backyard had holes in it, thunked holes from us throwing our shurikens into it. Oh, yeah, we had a good time doing that stuff. But that's, 12, 11, 12, 13.
Right. And
I'm an only child, too, so I kind of,
You had hours to spend during the day?
I had hours to spend. I had, as long as I was busy, Mom was pretty happy.
All right. And for the uninitiated listeners out there who aren't so into ninja lore, as we obviously are, shurikens are the Chinese throwing stars.
Throwing stars, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry.
No. I knew exactly what you meant, but I don't know if everyone has the same ninja background that we do. So I wanted to ask you, I had seen on the website that you had mentioned you went to, got some of your education about writing from PCC Sylvania, which in quotes is called the Harvard on the Hill. Is that?
Yeah, that was just a tongue-in-cheek joke. I went to community college didn't even finish 2 years because of what we discussed earlier. I had to get things sorted out. But I actually I was exposed to writing there, a couple of writing classes, and, I really liked it. But unfortunately, I got derailed there by some other things. So I'm glad to get back into it and get things out of the way. And I'm glad I'm doing it now. I really enjoy sitting down every day and throwing down some words, and whether they're good or bad, and just escaping. It's an escape from this kind of crazy ongoing drone of a world,
Yeah. I think that's a great way to approach it as a writer, because then it's always a pleasure coming back. But then from the reader's side, you get to feel that same enthusiasm.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Lee Child books. I read Daniel Coe. I read thrillers. Military thrillers is what I really like. But Lee Child, my stepfather introduced me to him back Killing Floor way early on, and that's kind of got me out of the fantasy and into that, and then that morphed into, of course, all the apocalyptic books I could find early on, which were few and far between.
And did you ever have a phase of science fiction in there in your past?
I read some Heinlein from high school. In high school, had to read Heinlein. Some Stephen King stuff. Some things, Tommy Knockers, whatever. Not a whole lot of science fiction. No, in high school, you could find me with my school book propped up, and behind it, I'd have a Don Pendleton Executioner novel. I was totally into Mac Bolan and Able Team and Phoenix Force, and
yeah.
Growing up in the Vietnam era and stuff, I was totally into reading books that touched on that. And of course, you probably will know that I'm a huge Punisher fan, and the Netflix series was spot on.
Yeah, that was very good. I haven't seen all the episodes, but I've seen a few and I really enjoyed them.
My wife sat and watched them throughout with me. So that's how good it was. It's good stuff.
Well, speaking of things on the television, and another thing that I had read about you that struck a chord with me personally, and probably a lot of people, you had seen Jaws, the movie, as a kid. And
yes, oh man, that ruined it. Ruined the ocean for me. I was, 9 in 1977. Saw it with my dad or mom. Before they'd been divorced, I think, for a little bit, but one of them took me to see it. That head floating out of the boat, and just the unseen dangers. I remember being in San Diego 25 years ago on a boogie board and thinking, all I could think of was, I look like a seal. I look like a seal. I look like a seal, waiting for that hit.
Well, the reason you were thinking that is you did. You look like a seal.
I look like a seal.
Yeah, when I'm it had a similar kind of impact on me, even to this day. Like in the ocean, I'd love to scuba dive. So once I'm down in the water, not that it probably makes any real difference practically, but at least I feel like I can look around and kind of see what's happening. But when you're at that air water surface level border where everything's kind of reflective on the top or whatever, and you see nothing below, man, I do not enjoy hanging out at that level very much.
I've never scuba dived, but we did snorkel when we were in Maui. We went out to the crater and snorkeled there. And tell you what, I was so enamored with the fish, and I didn't really think about the shark part of it. But then again, I know that, Hawaii is not really known for shark attacks. If I was in Australia, I'm sure I would be like pucker factor 10.
Right. A little more on point.
Great Barrier Reef. It's like crazy.
Jaws basically ruined. It's funny you're saying that, because I think I pushed through the fear, but still feel a little bit as an adult. But it, in the same way, absolutely ruined the ocean for both of my, two of my sisters. Neither of them will ever put a toe in the ocean. Like the older one went about a year or two ago, went on a snorkeling expedition with her husband, because he was like, "Oh, just try it. Come on." That was a long time ago. And she, in recounting the story to me, she said she basically had a panic attack the whole time while she was in the water. And she didn't remember seeing any of the beautiful fish or whatever, right? Because she was constantly judging where everybody else was, and she was ensuring that she was in the middle of the group.
Then there's that movie where the scuba divers are left behind. That was pretty crazy.
Oh man, that would be absolutely terrifying. And I could see, I think that was based on a real occurrence, wasn't it?
Happened in Australia, I believe. Yeah.
Whoa. Yeah. That would be very scary. Well, yeah. Speaking of other kinds of stories, you'd mentioned reading fantasy, growing up. Do you have aspirations at some point to try out other genres?
Yeah, I'm the thing I'm writing for Skillset Magazine. Jason Swartz, the editor, he also does my covers. He's a great guy. He's a veteran, Marine veteran. It's called Peacemaker, and it's his story, or his idea, basically. He pitched it at me, so I signed a deal saying that I can't use it for my books, but it's basically Death Wish 2017. The character, the protagonist, he loses his family, basically, and he's a federal marshal, so he uses that cover to go all over and get even, basically. And it's so fun to write. So I want to write something along that lines, where it's modern day subterfuge, a thinker novel, basically.
Right. And would these would it be kind of thing where it's somehow connected to your existing zombie apocalypse series, or just a whole different thing?
No, it'll be a whole different thing. I think I have had a lot of readers ask me to take Cade Grayson and do some novels, write some novels where he's in the Delta team or Rangers or something, where he's before the zombie apocalypse. So basically take him overseas to Afghanistan or something like that, and write some stories from that point of view. But, I'm not really, I'm not a veteran, and I don't know if I could do those justice. I do have some readers and some technical advisors that read my stuff and set me straight, but I don't want to step on any toes. I can do zombies because it's easy to, zombies are easy to do pretty much whatever you want with. So,
yeah. And you have, at least in the slow moving, trudging, moaning zombies, you have the perfect archetype in the Romero movies.
Exactly.
And speaking of the Romero movies, we are at the point of the show where I like to call it the mid-show matinee.
All right.
And this is going to be, if you agree to do it, which I think you should, because this could turn out to be amazing. But it's a small performance piece for the entertainment of our listeners out there.
All right.
what this is going to be is, we actually didn't cover it here, but I had read that Night of the Living Dead was a formative experience for you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was one of the first scary movies my mom let me watch. I think I was 12 or something, 1980, and we rented it from the American Family Video near our house, a couple blocks from our house, and watched it on VHS with some friends for a birthday party. And that black and white, the spade scene, and that was just a pretty creepy movie. And then the next birthday, I think next touch I went and bought Dawn of the Dead, in the mall, the 1974, I think it was.
Right.
That was also pretty cool. But now I'm 50 now, so you gotta keep that into. If I can't figure out exactly who these people are, I'll do my best.
Well, I just I was looking at Night of the Living Dead and just kind of remembering last night, and I found an amazing clip on YouTube from the movie that potentially put you on this career path. So if you could take, it's just like 20 seconds. So if you start at 1 minute, 13 seconds, if you could watch that, that's what we are going to perform for the people, for the fine listeners.
You want me to watch it right now and then we'll perform it?
Yeah. Just to get the flavor for it. It's about 20 seconds.
Okay.
And then as the guest of the show, you get to pick if you're the chief or the news anchor.
Okay. No volume. There we go.
And destroy the marauding
Okay.
The survival cameras have just returned from covering such a search and destroy.
So start at 1:13, 1 minute 13 seconds.
13.
Heard them making all kind of noise. We came over and beat them off, blasted them down.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Yeah, okay. Chief,
The remake too was pretty cool.
These things, would I stand a chance with them?
The good old
there's
boys.
No problem. If you
Yeah.
had a gun, shoot them in the head. That's a sure way to kill them. If you don't, get yourself a club or a torch. Beat them or burn them. They go up pretty easy. Well, Chief McClellan, how long do you think it will take you until you get the situation under control?
All right, I got a feeling for it.
Well, that's pretty hard.
All right. So which role would you rather have?
I want to do the chief.
Yeah, I think he's got the star role here.
I'm going to throw in. I don't want it because I want to throw in a little drawl into it or something. A little something.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we have our lines, ladies and gentlemen, and we are about to perform a star-studded interlude of Night of the Living Dead. All right. Are you ready, Shawn?
I'm ready.
All right. So I'll be the anchor. Chief, if I were surrounded by 6 or 8 of these things, would I stand a chance with them?
Well, there's no problem. If you had a gun, shoot them in the head. That's a sure way to kill them. If you don't, get yourself a club or a torch. Beat them or burn them. They go up pretty easy.
Sorry. Well, Chief, you're in the zone there. Okay. Well, Chief McClellan, how long do you think it will take you before you get the situation under control?
Well, that's pretty hard to say. We don't know how many of them there are. We know when we find them, we can kill them.
Well, are they slow moving, Chief?
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Woo!
Yay, we nailed it.
Oh yeah, that was good. That
was fun.
People are going to love that one. Right on. Well, thank you for rocking that. Well, we're getting near the end of the show, and that can mean only one thing. Welcome to the Rorschach round, where we use ambiguously odd questions to delve deeper into the minds of these amazing authors. Let's get started. And here at the end of the show, the last little bit here I like to do for listeners is what we call the Rorschach round.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I ask ambiguously odd questions to get past the critical thinking part of the mind and just let readers into who you are and how you think.
All right,
here we go. First question. Has anyone ever made you mad in real life that you subsequently tortured, maimed, or killed in a book?
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one.
Why is it? And I'm not saying anything here. I'm not being suggestive, but why when people plead the fifth, everyone automatically assumes guilt?
Because I'm guilty.
That's a good
Yes,
reason.
there have been some, in my book, some people, I won't name them, that have ended up in a bad way.
It's cathartic. That's the way I feel
It
about
is.
it personally.
Oh, that's a word I like to use, cathartic. Very good. Thank you.
All right. Next question. What's the number one thing you haven't done yet that you'd love to do?
Oh man, I want to shoot a minigun someday. Just hose down some lead downrange. Man, Mark Tufo was talking about on his one of his pages, wanting to get one of those things, saving up for one of those things, and I chimed in. I'll kick in some ammo if you let me shoot the bad boy.
Well, I think you may need to contact Stephen Conkley as well. I just interviewed him recently, and his answer to the question was the same exact thing.
Shut up. I didn't listen to that, honestly. I only listened to WJ's because I've been busy, but wow.
It sounds to me like there's a company opportunity there. Like someone needs to put out a Groupon, like come shoot a minigun. Yeah. It's the deal of the century.
Or drive a tank. There's a place in Texas you can drive a tank. That's what I want to do too. That's on a bucket list.
Oh, that would be super cool. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And I'd like to fly in a fighter jet, man. That would be amazing.
Oh, backseat in a fighter jet, yes. I have a reader. His name's Matt Johns, and he invited me and my kids over to the Oregon Air National Guard here, and we got to go inside and see the F-15s, and Whoa. Kids got to sit underneath a $20,000, $30,000 canopy that's polished. And then he took us out. This was a surprise. We got to look at the things up close inside the hangar. And then he took us out on the edge of the runway, right near the runway, and said, he put his headphones on us and said, you guys are going to watch the F-15s take off for their, sortie. And we watched them right there take off, just, and then he goes, wait, there's some F-18 Hornets from Whidbey Island or somewhere that are here. So this is just a bonus. We watched the naval aviators take off, and those guys had their wheels up stowed before they were a dozen feet off the tarmac. It was an experience. It was really cool. And
were you close enough, like you got some of the jet blast?
We could smell no, we didn't get the jet blast. When they spooled up the engines, we were parked in a truck near the hangars, where the outside hangars where they get the planes ready, and the crew chief does all the motions and tells them, thumbs up or thumbs down or whatever. You could feel the vibration in the truck, but we weren't close enough to get the jet wash. Out on the tarmac, we weren't close enough to get the jet wash, but you could feel the rumble in your chest. Oh, my boy was mouth ear to ear grin. My daughter was like fist pumping towards the pilots. That's one of the great things about having awesome readers that offer things like that. It's awesome.
yeah, that sounds totally cool. Right on. So let's see. If you were to write an autobiography, what would the title be?
First half sucked. Second half, he pulled himself up by his bootstraps and put his head down and made the most of the rest.
Awesome. I think that it sounds like that's going to be an inspirational title.
Yeah.
Right on. And last question here. Which would it be worse to be surrounded by, zombies or sharks?
Sharks. Hands down.
Wait, why sharks?
I know how to kill zombies.
It's true. The same, like a club, if you're surrounded by sharks and you're trying to swing it in water.
The dynamics in water, the hydro, no, not going to work.
All right.
I mean, and then spear guns, they have like one shot and then you got to reel them in or something. I've never seen a Gatling spear gun. I mean, if they had one, maybe I'd jump in the water.
Maybe that's a new bucket list thing. If they have a spear gun, minigun.
Except I don't want to kill sharks. I mean, sharks, they're just alpha predators in their domain. I don't hate them. I just don't want them to eat me.
Yeah. That's a reasonable. I think that's an extremely reasonable approach to a relationship with a shark. Right on. Shawn, it's been a real hoot to have you on the show. We are getting near the end, but before we go, I wanted to find out a little bit more. I think you had mentioned it was Riker's Apocalypse. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Well, tell us about that. What's it about, the highlight view, and when can we expect to see it? Well,
it's called The Promise, and the premise is Riker's called home. His mother has passed, and they're going to distribute the inheritance. His sister, Tara, has a little bit of doesn't know how much they're going to get, and he has a secret that his mom told him on the deathbed that he can't divulge. It's basically, and that's kind of drives a wedge between them until Tara sees something that she can't believe. She thinks she sees a fella die and come back to life, and she utters the word. In this book, I'm using the word zombie. A lot of writers don't. She utters the word zombie, and they're kind of incredulous. And so it goes from there, and they have to escape Middletown, or it's a pretty fun ride.
Very cool. And just as a reminder to listeners that this does break a little bit with the old school Chesser code in that there are some speedier zombies.
There are some speedier zombies, yeah. I don't want to say exactly what I call them, but you guys will find out when the book drops.
Awesome.
They have their own name.
And is this, are you projecting this to be the start of a new series, or is this standalone?
Yeah, this is book one of a new series. I've gotten phenomenal feedback from my beta readers, and they're already asking for a second book. Wow. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I want to jump back into that world right now, but I'm going to write book 13 in my Surviving the Zombie Apocalypse series. The title right now is called Gone.
Gone. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I like your, you've got in that series, you have very punchy single word titles. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I come up with an idea way before I write the book usually, and then a title too. I've only changed one title since conception to finalization of the novel.
Wow, that's cool.
That was book 2. Instead of Soldier On, it was going to be War Footing. And then I just thought, Trudge, Soldier On just sounds so much better after that.
Yeah, it's very cool. And are you? Do you have a plan of like jumping back and forth, writing book to book in each of the series going forward?
I think that's what I'm going to do for a little bit. I'm still writing for the magazine. The new piece of the serial comes out January 7th or 8th, and you'll get that everywhere, Barnes and Noble. So it's called Skill Set. Great group of guys. And I also wanted to do a shout out to the fella Buck Doyle. He's a Marine veteran. He owns Follow Through Consulting in Utah. He trains FBI agents, CIA, Special Forces, and he's a combat veteran. And he's Riker. He's agreed to be Riker for my series, and you'll see him on the cover of my book. I think the cover's out there right now.
Wow, cool. Yeah, I have seen it. It looks very cool. So you mean he's Riker, meaning he's the visual image, or it's based on him?
He's the visual image, yes. That's what I should have said. I'm sorry.
Okay,
he agreed to be the model, if you will, for Riker, yeah.
Yeah, and from I've seen the cover, and he is definitely the model, and not in the wearing a banana hammock on a white beach kind of way, in a very tough, gritty, real kind of way.
Yeah, not even.
And that's one thing I have considered. I haven't done it myself, but have you ever gone to any of these training experiences, like force on force training, tactical training type stuff?
I have not. The closest I've gotten is playing paintball back in the day, playing big games and stuff.
Yeah,
I was a pretty avid paintball player for a while. None of the quick hit them and with the blow up obstacles and stuff. It was always in the woods with objectives and whatnot.
Right on.
But I do want to do some of that training. I mean, I own a handful of firearms, and of course a nice gun safe because I have kids, but we're safe. And I like to shoot, and I do want to do something like that one day. That'd be kind of coul.
Yeah, I think it would be a lot of a fun weekend, and I'm sure you'd come back a bit beat up and bruised, but the experience would be great. There's
also, I think it's in England somewhere, there's a thing where you can go and you can do the zombie experience. You have simunitions, which fire a little tiny projectile that kind of like paintball, but different. And It's supposed to be hyper realistic.
Wow. There's another bucket list item there. We're going to try to find the link to that and put in the show notes, because that sounds super cool.
Yep.
Right on. Well, where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Well, William, I have a website. It's ShawnChesser.com. And I do my own updating, so sometimes it's behind a little bit. I'm on Facebook, social media. Shawn_Chesser_author is my handle on IG, Instagram.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it right there.
All right. Well, we'll make sure and get all of that into the show notes for easy access from people. And Appreciate Shawn, I just wanted to thank you once again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, exceeded my every expectation. Thank you very much. It's been a good hour.
Special thank you to Shawn for coming on the show today. So I hope you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. And I know I always say that after every interview. How is that possible? Well, it's because I actually enjoy each one. I mean, writers are interesting people. We're weird. We're messed up. We've got issues. We need to work through them. Let's do it together. Hey, if you're an author out there and you've got some great books that people love and you want to be on the show, why don't you give me a shout? There's the usual contact methods, Facebook, my website, etc. You can give me a shout there and we can see if we can work out how to get you on the show. So I can't promise anything, but let me know and we'll see what we can do. You can find all the links that we were mentioned today in the usual place. So that's on my website, www.williamoday.com/the number of the episode, which in this case is the number 12. So jump over there and you can watch the video, the YouTube video of that performance we did, so you can judge for yourself who did it better. And honestly, I thought we did a pretty darn good job, especially Shawn with that drawl there. He really nailed it. And it was hilarious and entertaining at the same time. So you can find out that and the various links to Shawn's various sites and ways to connect with him that he mentioned, and also to that new book, which is already out and is getting lots of great reviews. So go check that out when you can. And next week, we are going to be chatting with Russell Blake, who I'm going to call the most interesting man in the world. I think that's like a Dos Equis commercial or Tecate or something. I'm going to look it up for next week. We'll probably put a little YouTube clip in the show notes just for fun. But no kidding. This guy is absolutely, possibly anyway, okay, he qualifies as a contender for the title of the most interesting man in the world. I say that because usually when I interview authors on this show, I try to keep it from anywhere 45 minutes to an hour or so, and don't want to push much beyond that because, as listeners out there, time is precious, and as a guest on the show, equally, time is precious. So I don't want to take up too much of anybody's time. However, that whole guideline and intention completely fell apart. I mean, I'm talking like an asteroid hitting Earth dead center, things blowing up into outer space. I think the interview went almost 2 hours. I'm editing it now, trying to get it down to a more reasonable time, but the guy is just fascinating to talk to. So anyway, make sure and check out that interview. It will be one you do not want to miss. And you probably already know, or if you don't, he is the author of the best-selling Jet series and quite a number of other series as well. So we'll find out more about all of those, and believe me, so much more next week. That's it for today. If you would like to be sure to never miss a show and always have them immediately available on your device of choice, you can subscribe by going to www.williamod.com/iTunes. And if you enjoyed the show, I would so appreciate a rating and review on iTunes. They both help with store visibility, and they also let other listeners know if this show is something that they might be interested in checking out. And I've made it easy to access both of those by going to the same link on my website, www.williamod.com/iTunes. That will have a link there that you can jump over to either subscribe and or maybe all three, rate and review the show. So I would so appreciate that. Thank you so much. That's it for now. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the OMG Book Show. You can find out more at www.williamod.com.